Creativity in Beyblade can be absolutely limitless. With hundreds of parts and endless combinations, creativity becomes one of the most powerful tools a person can have. Sometimes all it takes is one creative idea to spark a breakthrough combo, one so powerful it can challenge the very foundations of the meta. For example, in one of our recent videos, we talked about how a specific combo changed the entire game. It was the kind of combo that forced the entire Beyblade meta to adjust to its playstyle. Flame 230 CS, the reigning monarch of the Beyblade meta, a combo that everybody had to prepare to face. For a while, it was at the top controlling the meta, until a new Beyblade that was so unpredictable to go up against that it didn't have just one standout combo, it had multiple S+ tier variations. A variation that had up to 8 different mode changes, a variation with a $300 pay-to-win combo, and a variation with a super simple combo that was so strong that it had to be called for it to get banned 14 years later. So what monster of a Beyblade had all of this power, versatility, and unpredictability packed into one Beyblade? That title would go to none other than Gravity Perseus. Now, to give some context, at this point of time, every single Beyblade had an exclusive spin rotation. 95% of Beyblades spun to the right, with 5% being an exception to the El Drago lineage where it spun exclusively to the left. And that was that, until Gravity Perseus was gifted the ability to not only spin to the right, but also spin to the left. This became the first ever Beyblade in the Metal Fight series to be dual spinning, and you can bet that it was absolutely game-changing. Because in Beyblade, the concept of being able to actively adapt to your matchup during a battle was already seen to be a huge advantage. The only good competitive part that existed during that time that allowed you to do that was the spin track, Change 120. This spin track would allow you to change your Beyblade's height from a moment's notice, which was a good enough advantage for people to utilize it in their competitive deck. But now that Gravity Perseus can spin both left and right, people had to prepare to go up against both spin directions compared to just one, which in competitive can cause you some trouble if you didn't prepare for the one you initially hoped to go up against. And not to mention, the gravity wheel actually had a really good design. It had a low center of gravity, which gives it some natural stamina, a rounded shell-like shape which gives it some natural defense, and rough edges that packed both strong recoil and built-in upper attack. This pretty much had everything you wanted in a balanced Beyblade. And it also had another unique feature. Here's the thing with Beyblade, majority of the fusion wheels that existed here could be paired with just about any energy ring. But the Gravity Fusion Wheel was different. It wasn't allowed to use 99% of the energy rings that existed. But because of that, it was given an exclusive energy ring called Perseus, which in hindsight meant a heavy reduction in flexibility, but it also meant perfect synergy. And the Perseus energy ring was also quite unique. It had 3 protrusions sticking out shaped like helmets, and it could change between 2 different modes depending on how you place it on the gravity wheel. In defense mode, you would be covering Medusa's eyes with the helmet, which gave the Beyblade an overall shell-like shape. But by exposing Medusa's eyes, you reveal the high recoil sections of the wheel, giving it a more aggressive shape and activating its counter-attacking mode. But wait, there's even more, because they released multiple different versions of the Perseus energy ring to match different playstyles. For example, the default energy ring that you see here is technically the defense version, with it having 3 helmets. Then there was the attack version, where this one had an energy ring that shortened the length of the helmets but also increased the protrusions on this portion of the energy ring, which added even more recoil to both the defense and counterattack mode. And for the stamina version, it added an additional 3 more helmets, with it having a total of 6. With this, every slot on the gravity wheel was covered, which resulted in less recoil and a shell-like shape to maximize its defense and stamina potential. Now, imagine this where back in the day, most Beyblades were pretty straightforward with nothing too crazy. Your single spin rotation Beyblade with just one single mode. But then out of nowhere came Gravity Perseus with its dual spinning feature and those 3 energy rings to match different playstyles. It was just a whole new world of versatility, and it forced everybody to rethink their strategies. But now let's dive deep into the first combo that made Gravity Perseus really shine. This is Gravity Perseus Change 120 Metal Flat. This combo was built to be the ultimate adaptive Beyblade. As with the Change 120 spin track, it allowed this Beyblade to extend its height to the 145mm range that allowed it to counter taller Beyblades, but most importantly, to directly counter Flame 230 CS. It also utilized the metal flat tip, which was designed to maximize the stamina portion on a attack tip. And if you were to utilize the energy ring that allowed you to change modes, you would have a total of 8 different variants you could use. And because of how adaptive this Beyblade can be, it probably had over 90% of its weaknesses covered. With its shell-like shape and high agility, Gravity Perseus did super well against other attack types. It moved just as fast but could also tank hits. Basically a defensive Beyblade disguised as an attacker. Now, here's the thing about the different spin rotations in Beyblade. Right spin Beyblades usually move in a counterclockwise motion to the stadium, while left spinning Beyblades go clockwise. And when you have a left spinning Beyblade going up against a right spinning one, you get what's called spin equalization. And that's when both Beyblades start absorbing spin from each other during contact. But specifically in left versus right attack matchups, it's not just about spin equalization. These collisions are impacted differently because both Beyblades are also exchanging energy through force, spin, and recoil. And then the real deciding factor becomes which one can recover faster after a hit. And that's where the metal flat tip comes in. Because of its low friction, Gravity Perseus can regain speed and its balance way faster than Beyblades using rubber flat, which tends to slow down more on contact. And that quick recovery lets Gravity Perseus take control of the fight pretty easily. In retrospect, you can kind of think of it as a parry in a video game. And going up against defense types was probably Gravity Perseus's easiest matchup. Most of the time, it could just rely on a super safe method called tornado stalling. Since defense type Beyblades don't have much stamina to begin with, and Gravity is built with pretty high stamina, it can just circle around, avoid contact, and outlast them in the end. And even if the stall doesn't work perfectly, Gravity Perseus can usually fall back on spin stealing. And because of its design, it usually has more life after death compared to most common defense combos. Now, against stamina types, that was probably this combo's hardest matchup. Against those types, it has to knock them out to win. But here's the twist, unlike most right spinning attack type Beyblades, Gravity's left rotation allows it to hold on to more stamina with each hit. That means it can keep dishing out powerful attacks without draining itself too fast. And don't sleep on its attack power, because Gravity Perseus can hit really hard. So even though stamina types are its hardest challenge, Gravity still has the tools to come out on top. So yeah, this was the staple combo almost everyone had in their deck. It was your ace, something you could count on to break the rock paper scissors system and grab points when you were falling behind. Gravity Perseus Change 120 Metal Flat wasn't just reliable, it was one of those rare combos that could handle almost everything thrown at it. Especially in the hands of a skilled blader who knew how to use its potential to the fullest. But now we have the infamous pay to win combo. Here we have Gravity Perseus Free 230 Gear Circle Flat. This thing ran absolutely crazy in 2022, and honestly, it was a stupidly simple combo. Barely any risk and barely any effort. This was actually the combo I would just hand to my newbie friends because all they had to do was launch it into the stadium and it would win most of its battles. That's how strong the synergy was between the Free 230 spin track and the Gear Circle Flat tip. Free 230 or F230 was one of the most unique and rarest spin tracks in the game. If you thought the original 230 spin track was strong like in the Flame 230 CS combo, well, Free 230 took it even further. And it was because it would make the entire Beyblade free spinning, which gave it insane stamina and survivability. And it became an absolute nightmare when paired with Gear Circle Flat, which was literally just an extreme flat tip with a circular gear-like plate on it. From the outside, you'd probably never guess that this weird looking combo would be one of the most frustrating combos to go up against. And here's why. Since Gravity Perseus utilized the 230 height spin track, it was hard for any attack Beyblade to actually hit its wheel, which made it hard for it to get knocked out naturally. And on top of that, the Gear Circle Flat tip acted as brakes whenever it got hit by physically digging itself into the stadium, which prevented it from getting knocked out. This made using an attack type against this combo extremely frustrating if you wanted to try to knock it out. And against defense types? Yeah, this Beyblade probably had an even easier time than the previous combo. You could utilize both the same methods that we talked about earlier, but with an even higher success rate. But most importantly, it didn't struggle against stamina types. Because of its crazy synergy between the free 230 spin track and the gear circle flat tip, this Beyblade's bottom half can stop spinning while the top half continues to spin. This gave it a whole other level of life after death that once Medio El Drago only had. You could still directly look for a knockout, but if it weren't to succeed, Gravity Perseus would just tilt at the very end and spin steal. This combo literally had little to no counters, and it was absolutely insane to use. Broken, right? Like, you would think that everybody would have this in their deck. But surprisingly, it's not really seen as much anymore. And that was because this combo is actually gatekept by its price. You see, there are many ways to obtain a free 230 spin track, from the Hasbro set or the brown one from a random booster, which is pretty cheap. But those free 230 spin tracks just suck. They didn't spin correctly. But to get the best version of the free 230 spin track for competitive play, you would need the original orange Takara Tomy one, which first came from the Takara Tomy Beyblade Bandit Genbu, which is going for $800 new in box, an actual pay-to-win Beyblade. And now let's talk about the combo that people demanded for it to get banned. This is Gravity Perseus 85 Rubber Flat. This combo was just a simple, straightforward attack type combo that apparently was deemed to be such a low risk, high reward combo that people complained so much that the World Beyblade organization had to take action. This combo wasn't anything complicated like the last two. The way to win was to just knock your opponent out. It utilized the 85 spin track, which is actually the shortest height spin track you can use in the game. And because of its low height and its shell-like shape, with it also being able to spin to the left, it did extremely well against attack types. And it was also able to just brutally break through the defenses of a defense type. And it had an even easier time knocking out stamina type Beyblades compared to the past two combos. And because of all of this, people complained so much that the World Beyblade organization actually decided to add in an optional ban clause to basically ban using any spin tracks on Gravity Perseus that was shorter than the 120 height. Crazy, right? Because out of the past combos that we talked about, this super simple combo was the one that was tearing up competitive Beyblade. And with all of that, the once reigning monarch Flame 230 CS finally fell to this combo. The infamous combo, which had caused so much frustration for so many, was made to look like nothing more than another basic combo by Gravity Perseus. And that's because Flame 230 CS had one big glaring weakness. And that weakness wasn't to a specific stat type or subtype, but it was specifically towards left spinning Beyblades. So at no point during the matchup between Flame 230 and Gravity could Flame ever actually find success. The CH120 build could extend its height and or outlast Flame 230. The free 230 build already had its matching heights with Flame and can utilize its spin stealing ability. And the low height 85 rubber flat combo could just brute force its way to knock out Flame, but also be able to outlast it in the end. There was literally nothing Flame can do. So yeah, this is how Gravity Perseus took over the competition. And now if you participate in local Metal Fight tournaments, you will typically see either one of these Gravity combos in everybody's deck. Gravity Perseus was the Beyblade with the most versatility. In fact, it became such a dominant force that the World Beyblade organization had to place multiple optional ban clauses on it. The first optional clause allowed tournament organizers to restrict players from switching spin rotations on your Gravity Perseus, which meant before your match, you had to declare what direction you were going to use in that match, and you were locked into that specific one. The second optional clause was the one we talked about earlier, where you were only allowed to use spin tracks above the 120 height with Gravity, which is honestly one of the weirdest clauses placed on a Beyblade. And the last one was you just being able to outright ban the Gravity wheel from your tournament. And because of all of this, Gravity Perseus is the #1 Beyblade that was hit with the most ban clauses. So yeah, that was Gravity Perseus for you, the Beyblade that took down Flame 230 CS and made its own mark in competitive. But it also didn't really mean that Flame 230 just disappeared after this, because in competitive Beyblade, you needed a deck of 3 total Beyblades to compete. So technically you can utilize both Flame 230 and Gravity Perseus in your deck. But now that leads to the question, what would be the ideal Beyblade to slide into the 3rd slot? because you would need a Beyblade that can match up to Flame 230's influence as well as compete against Gravity Perseus's versatility. Well, there's a Beyblade just like that. A Beyblade that personally tested your opponent's skill and locked them into one win condition, or else you would inevitably win every single battle. But that Beyblade is for another video. And like always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please consider subscribing and let me know down in the comments what you guys think about Gravity Perseus. Is this Beyblade balanced? Should it actually have gotten all of those ban clauses implemented? Let me know and I'll see you guys in the next video.